411 Live.
Where you can learn about issues that impact us every day. State of world, 411 Live.
Real people, real talk.
Made to help people in our community in every way. Boy, your girl, 411 Live.
Identifying male victims of sex trafficking is a real challenge because most of them don't want to talk about it, and it is understandable. Traffickers control their victims with force, fraud, or deception. Hello, I'm Beverly Taylor, and this is the 411 Live, Real People, Real Talk. What we try to do is expand the discussion and the awareness about human trafficking, specifically sex trafficking. We have done a multitude of video podcasts. We're in our second season. So I invite you to look at our previous ones because there is a wealth of information. We have had some wonderful guests. And I include these guests in that. We have 3 fantastic guests joining me today. And we are talking about how do men and boys handle sexual abuse and heal. You can already tell this is a dynamic discussion. I invite you to give us your comments or your suggestions as you're listening to this because we want you to be part of our discussion as well. Let me introduce you to my guests. We have Sean Muhammad, Executive Director, Co-Executive Director, I should say, of ASHA. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
And we have Sam Alford, who is a community organizer, a writer, and a poet.
Thank you.
I got some of them,
You
right?
got it right.
And we also have Khalil Borum, who is a licensed professional counselor. And welcome to you.
Thank you.
As I said, this is a loaded discussion.
Yeah.
But it's one that really needs to be told and brought out. We have done, like I said, a multitude of podcasts. But although we mention that men are victims, we mention it. But the majority of the focus is on women.
Right.
We don't really talk about the men. So this is one reason why I'm really excited about this discussion.
Absolutely.
Because we talk about sex trafficking being hidden in plain sight. This is really hidden in plain sight.
Absolutely.
Because men don't want to talk about this.
Right.
Is that what you are seeing in your profession? Are you seeing a little bit more of the disclosure? Is it getting better?
Well, I would say in my profession, I primarily conduct groups with men who have issues of anger, conflict resolution, acts of aggression, batters, intervention, things of that nature. So from time to time, I guess I could say it's increasing as far as men being willing to disclose that they were raped or molested, sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
I guess initially in my work with ASHA, I didn't get a lot of that. But as of late, I would say that it is increasing.
Yeah, and we should mention you've been with ASHA for over 20 years.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
so times are changing, maybe for the
Absolutely.
better
Right.
in that respect. With women, we can disclose to each other. Women can talk to each other about problems, issues, sexual assault or being a victim of sex trafficking. That's a heavy discussion that may take a while, but sooner or later, it usually comes out.
Right.
But for men, you don't have that kind of relationship that women do.
Right.
Am I
right.
correct on that?
No, you're correct.
A lot of males, especially young men, they got a wall up, and they're not going to reveal any of that information.
Mhm.
So if they've been molested or sex trafficked or anything, that it goes on the other side of that wall. The appearance of being cool, I want to be a strong man.
Right.
Is the bigger thing for them. So they're not going to let anything that they may seem that's weak.
Right.
And revealing something like that will show a sign of maybe weakness to them.
Right.
So the best thing for them is to just try to be quiet about it. Throw it in the closet and let it stay there.
Right. And then, it's a stigma,
Mhm.
that comes with that, whether it's a justifiable stigma or not, but it's a stigma of, maybe they don't want to be viewed as a man who has sex with men, or they don't want to be viewed as, like brother said, as weak. I
Mhm.
couldn't protect myself. I couldn't
Right.
defend myself. So, to stay away from being stigmatized, they keep it on the other side of that wall, as brother mentioned.
Yep.
Zora Hurston said something. My best friend loves this quote that, that's one of our favorite authors, but that if we're quiet about our pain, then when we die, they'll say we enjoyed it.
Mm.
That
Yeah.
if we quiet about that pain, that when we die, somebody will be like, man, he was all right. He always seemed like he was happy. They'll say we enjoyed it. And that what became unconscionable to me as being a survivor and being a victim, then being a thriver.
Right.
And I think it is, but it's a cultural thing, of course, for when men. One, I think it's innate that men want to be respected and want
Right.
that to be revered. As much as women need to be loved, we need to be respected. It's literally on the same
Right.
spirit.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because your man could be like, I respect you all day and never show you no love. And you'd be upset and you'd
Right.
be complaining. So it's on the reverse. But there's a culture of violence, right, in the Western world and in America. But it's just this tension and in this culture. Then it adds to when you're a person of color or a minority from an oppressed demographic, that not only if you've been molested and then you come from all this community that has less services, as structural violence. I talked to you about that the other day. Violence isn't just physical.
Right.
Violence is something trying to harm people. So segregation is violent to me. Poverty, to some regards, or not getting a job that I think I need, is a violence to me. A lack to education is violence. So people walk around with this violence, this tension, and then it's in their skin. And then men we either try to self-medicate or we try to transfer that pain.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
so
sir.
you gonna feel me. You know what I mean? Or
Right.
with these little guys being on 10 all the time. You know what I mean? Or
It's
just
always mad.
speeding or baselining. I gotta do something to get away, to be free, to transfer this. I need an outlet. Rather than words or identify an emotion or a safe place to do that.
Right.
Right.
Right. Well, since you've started this, let's talk
I
about.
didn't mean to start it.
No. Let's talk about what happened to you, because this is very personal for you.
Yeah. And it's not. So I was molested about 4 years old by an older teenage cousin, a male. And this is ironically, maybe 4 or 5. I'm a kid, so I looked up to this guy, you know what I mean?
Right.
Everything he did up to that point, I thought was cool.
Right.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? And he was an authority figure too.
Right.
But also I thought he was cool. And, I'm a heterosexual guy, and I feel like I was a heterosexual back then, but what 4 or 5-year-old is like trying to identify what they are.
Right.
Right? You know what I mean? I'm just supposed to be a kid.
You don't know.
But, he orally molested me, then made me do it to him.
Right.
And that's not something that I, want to go around talking about. I'm grown enough and man enough to say that. And I think it instilled some shame. And I didn't tell any family member, or I say my parents, to probably 20-something, early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
But I would write about it. So I'm a poet and I'm an MC, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just write about stuff in general. But and then there was other incidents where other cousins, the whole little, touching and rubbing and all that,
Yes.
clothes on, but still like this whole culture
Right.
of this excessive touching and sexual abuse and
Yes.
all that. And even though technically being a teenager is still being a child, but some of that's learned behavior, maybe something happened to them, but it's still children know the difference between right and wrong.
Right.
And I think we need to watch child age group dynamics in terms of when we have people just, y'all go play. Like, well, you this old, you should be playing with this
Right.
kid that young.
Right.
Yeah.
We were talking about the secrecy and not wanting to disclose, but for you, from our previous discussions, you found some healing in the poetry and
Yeah.
the raps, and
Yeah.
you could. There was an outlet for you through that, right?
Yeah. But I think it started with a lot of silence and shyness. So maybe that's only late middle school.
Mm-hmm.
I was, open and expressive with my family, but there's a lot of silence. There's a lot of times I didn't have a voice. I didn't feel okay. still to speak up, even sometimes now. So on the other end, I had this extreme where like, I need some ventilation. You know what I mean? You need ventilation, you need an outlet, you need to breathe. So the poetry and the catharsis of writing and all that did become a great outlet. Shout out real quick to one of my great teachers, Rhonda Stingley at North Division in the junior year. I went to Milwaukee Lutheran for 2 years, took myself out. And I didn't plan on going to North, but it wound up getting stuck there. And it had its challenges, ups and downs. But there was an African-American literature teacher named Rhonda Stingley who tried to make me sing in the choir. And I wasn't going, but I loved her teaching. And I wrote a piece, and that was my first time I had a voice like that on an open platform in front of the auditorium, and did a great job. So it's progressive in finding your voice.
Yeah. When we talk about the sexual molestation, that makes, when I talk with women, when that happens to them at a very young age, that makes them very vulnerable to a sex trafficker.
Right.
Because he can pick up on that vulnerability. Would that be the same with a man?
I think men are going to try to prove that they're not weak, or in our culture and in minority cultures, especially if you're heterosexual, that and it was done by that he's not gay. You know what I mean? And I think that we try to find power, or we try to find pleasure where we lost power. I heard somebody say. In the moment of me losing that power, you know what I mean? Oh, well, let me go get it. Or somebody got to go do this to me. Like, I could have had more sex, or could have went and had, you know what I mean? And just been aggressive and had the wrong outlets, trying to find power again, or trying to find pleasure. I heard this one author, I think her name started as a Roxanne, but she was talking about women in domestic violence situations. And this one woman lost a child, and she had a domestic violence situation. But she purposely chose an abuser because she wanted to feel a different kind of pain.
Wow.
And I think sometimes with that principle, we try to go find a different kind of pain, or 10 pleasures to stack up over this one pain to make it all right. So I think it makes you vulnerable to, if not sex trafficking, to like being trafficked, which it can definitely, because you look for a safe place or a father figure. On the end, we want to feel powerful and in control, and not just abusive. Self-agency and power is, I can pay my rent, or I can drive this car, or I can do this. And the irony of the toxicity, and I say this quick in the Black American culture, is that if you ain't got no girls, you weak. If you ain't aggressive, hyper aggressive, you weak. And this and that. So if I'm an innocent boy and I'm trying to fit in with players or young pimps or young drug dealers, what am I going to become? Because my cultural, it dictates to me. So the vulnerability is, I'm going to try to find affirmation this way, rather than the healthy way.
I would agree with you on that. I would say that, in my experience, brothers aren't vulnerable to traffickers, but they would be more apt to go to be a trafficker, or more apt to be hyper aggressive, to keep predators away from them, So, even if it's just to mask their fear or their insecurities, but more so, in my experience, they really go on the other side or the other scale of the spectrum.
Right.
That's a good point. I wonder the percentage of traffickers, how many were abused or sexually assaulted?
Initially, I think the trafficker he was abused too, or that situation. A lot of times, and go back to your point, kids, for the most part, are looking for a mentor, that father figure that's not there.
Absolutely.
In the neighborhoods, poverty neighborhoods, you have the drug dealer. The drug dealer might be a predator, but he has this money. He's showing he got the nice cars, fancy clothes, nice place. And when kids look at that, they're saying, okay, I want to be like him. So I'm going to do whatever I can to be like him. Even if he wants to have sex with me, even though I might not know it's right or not, or wrong or whatever.
Right.
I see a financial break out of just dealing with this guy, even though I know he's not right.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult situation for a young man. kids, period.
Right.
And then they go through the rest of their life. Then when they realize that what they were doing, and then it's like, wow, okay, I'm not that person.
Right.
How did I get stuck there?
No, that's true. You know, I would say that I've had two types of men that disclose to me. I have the man that's, like we said, hyper aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
He's quick to get violence, quick to anger, you know, quick to be abusive.
Right.
And I also have the man that's probably confused about his sexuality. You know, he may not necessarily identify with being gay, you know, but I've had men disclose to me that, you know, they were confused because, you know, maybe they had an erection during the molestation, or maybe they ejaculated during the molestation, and in their heart they didn't like it, but they're confused
Because their body
because
responded.
their body responded.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so you know, those are the primary men that I dealt with that disclosed to me. You know, where on one end, I'll never allow this to happen to me again. Anybody who even attempts to do it is gonna get this work from me.
Right.
But on the other end, I usually get young men or even older men who I've had disclosed to me that were confused. Like, I don't know if I'm gay. Maybe I am gay. I've had relationships with men, but I actually didn't like it, but my body responded.
Right.
Did I like it? You know, so those were the two type of men that I had disclosed to me.
Very good. All right. A lot more to discuss. We are going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the effects and just a little bit more about a lot of stuff. So stay with me. Join our three guests. We have, again, a lot to talk about. And if you have questions, comments, send them our way. We'll be right back.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/team up.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
Welcome back to the 411 Live. Our topic today is how boys and men handle sexual abuse and heal. We are talking with my three guests, and when we ended the conversation, we were talking about that sexual confusion and, you know, the thing where a boy is molested or abused young and the body responds.
Right.
You know, they don't know what's happening to them.
Right.
And later on, they think, well, maybe I'm gay because my body responded. You said you wanted to tackle that one.
Yeah. First about the choice in sexuality, it been a choice to be who you want to be. Some people debate that, but in terms of just a human having a choice of who they want to have sex with or who they don't, kids can't consent to sex. Kids can't sign contracts. Kids can't do a lot of things because they don't have the capacity or the informed decision to make those choices. And when a molester or a predator makes it for you, and then you think that that's how you're supposed to be, that's damaging. And then that's when sex become weaponized and to take somebody's power.
Yes, sir.
So for me, I was never homosexual and never thought I was. But in terms of me being a young boy, that's somebody else's sexual preference being weaponized against me.
Right.
And then I'm left to deal with the ramifications. Now, ironically, my abuser later in adult life said he became a homosexual man. And actually later on, I seen that he had AIDS. Live in a whole nother city from me. I don't really know him like that. You know, ever since that, it's kind of been over. So it's not knocking hetero or homosexual or even making those judgments or calls. People can be what they want to be. But it's making a point of individual to have a choice and somebody else taking that choice against them. So I know that there's a lot of women and people watching who've been abused by males and men, and I empathize, and I don't excuse no abuser, male or female, white or black. But I just know how when sex can be weaponized against you, it's very damaging. And I'll say this real quick, as you brothers know, especially Gat, that back in the day in slavery, you had slave owners who would
Yes,
rape
sir.
women and men. And they
true.
called it buck breaking,
Yes, sir.
buck like cattle or like, male or female. And they would rape or molest black men to weaponize sex to break their spirits
Yes, sir.
and take their power and agency from them. So especially when the two sexes preferences are different, but even if it's the same, even if you do like the sex that you having with the type of gender that you're dealing with, but it's just weapon, and the kids can't consent, and predatory behavior isn't right in any form. And the last piece is the biological thing that the body responds to. It's built, the nerves, it's like a machine.
Yes, sir.
And if a dog come and lick you and touch you the right way or wrong way and you sleep, your body's gonna respond. You know what I mean? So we are to inform our emotions, to inform our body or our biology. But think about all that generational trauma and that extra stuff pushed down.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to clear that up in terms of choice, consent, and just the history of sex being weaponized.
Yes, sir.
When we talk about secrecy, with women, and I've talked to many women who were sexually abused by a family member.
Mm-hmm.
It was an
Okay.
uncle, it was a cousin, it was a father.
That's crazy.
And for a boy, for this to happen, say a family member, I can see that don't tell anybody, you don't say anything, or if they do tell, it's what happens in this house stays in this house.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You know?
That old
Um,
adage.
I could really see that as an issue with boys.
A lot of times, what I've ran across was the family member was a big name, a strong member in the family. The kid is maybe expressing different things, but then the family members don't believe it.
Yeah. It's
You know,
happening a lot.
And the kids, they may not know how to express it, articulate the language to what's going on. If you were 4 years old, you don't know how to say, okay, this guy is doing something to me.
Right.
He's touching me in an inappropriate way. You may think it's family member. This is the love,
Right.
and it's not.
But it can
Yeah.
be misinterpreted by a young mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're naive. You don't know better.
Right.
It's a hard thing to bite, as far as a little kid to
Right.
be able to, just like what I was mentioning earlier was Dwayne Wade's situation.
Mhm.
And it's a tough situation for him.
Yes, sir.
And for a 12-year-old, do they really know what sexuality they want to have sex with, really, or be in a relationship with? I really don't. I would question that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, as a parent, I would want to look back and say, okay, well, where is this coming from? Why do you feel that way? And I want to find the root of it, compared to just letting you do whatever you want to do
Right.
at 12 years old.
Right.
Let's talk about the effects. What kind of effect did it have on you?
In terms of abuse, well, I dealt with other kind of abuse too, some verbal and some physical, from my pops. Just sharp, always had the right answer, all that. You know what I mean? So I dealt with other kind of abuse that kind of made me. The effects, though, I feel like it was a shyness. There was an insecurity in terms of whether I was strong, whether I was weak. You know what I mean, or whether I should speak up on something. And it kind of instilled a self-doubt, a second, a third question. And then later, when I found my voice, sometimes in excess, I speak. You know what I mean? Or I rap. Like now at home, I would write, doing some poetry, and I began to find my place. But I needed the seasons. So I was like shy, withdrawn, traumatized, put it plain. And then it was like super outspoken, loud, hard to focus, this and that. But usually like kind of playful and fun, almost
Right.
like a Will Smith type of guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or kind of Tupac, two cats I looked up to, but I noticed that I was free flowing and energetic and all that. Underneath, now somebody watching right now who's a whole different person inside than with how they present. Because they might have joy and have love, but how we do things so we can survive. You know, like Simone said, who was here, and I know Simone from other, like people do stuff, they're surviving mechanisms, but you outgrow those and they get old. And you need to find a new way to live and cope and deal and just to be free. And just to really find your voice and find that you can take up space in this world is a big thing.
Right.
Man, I commend you, brother, you know, because it takes courage to heal.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, man.
I mean, it's easy to just put on one of the defense mechanisms or, you know, a lot of my clients, you know, I don't like to call them clients, but a lot of the brothers that I've dealt with, you know, some of the symptoms, I guess, would be anxiety, a lot of anxiety,
Yeah, I got that.
aggression, you know, even violent behavior. You know, a lot of times we become what we we hate.
You get
or we
acculturated.
become the perpetrator.
Yeah.
You like the predator.
You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of what I do is unpack it and you know, show them or try to facilitate them unlearning what they learn.
Say that again. Unlearning.
You know.
Yeah.
Why you mad? I mean, and that's one thing I noticed here in Milwaukee. I'm a retired Air Force, and I've been back here since 2014. And I retired out of South Carolina, and everybody down there is so friendly and just peaceful.
Yeah.
And I came here, and people were just so mad. You know, you go up to a brother and say, "Hey, how you doing?" Man, what you talking about? Don't talk to me.
Right. It's a tension.
It's a tension here.
White and black.
Yeah, I mean everywhere.
The whole culture.
And, yeah, it's not just black people.
Yeah.
It's white people too. They more or less won't speak to you either.
Yeah.
And it's something going on as far as the men and the women around in the city for some reason.
Yeah.
We have to figure that out. It's something it's a tension there. And they got a thing down south. It's called Pay It Forward.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know, a lot of people may not know it up here. When I tell people about it, down south, you know, you might go through Wendy's drive-through and somebody paid it forward. They bought your food.
Right.
Yes, sir.
I've never had that. I was getting it done like every time I go to a fast food place down there.
Wow.
But you go here, you get to the window, the lady like, "Here your stuff," you know.
Yeah.
We don't have any honey.
Ice cream machine don't work either.
Yeah, we don't have ketchup.
That's funny. Well, believe it
I'm
or
afraid
not,
to ask for ice cream.
hey, believe it or not, man, I paid it forward.
So you do know that,
Yeah,
Jack.
and
Okay.
I've actually had people
that's a good
do
brother.
it for me as well.
Okay.
You know, so
Okay.
you know, Milwaukee is a strange place, man. It's
Yeah, man.
I always tell my children, because you know they see me doing work in the community, and you know I have friends who are like, you know, man, why are you wasting your time, you know? And I always tell them, you know, Milwaukee is kind of like if you had an ugly baby. You know, you still gotta love it and nurture it. It's still yours, you know.
right.
You got to take care of that baby, you know.
Right.
That's
To grow up to
absolutely
be
true.
somebody handsome or beautiful and
Right.
successful,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And that was the thing. Even when I was in the service, you know, when I tell people I'm from Milwaukee, they're like, "You from Milwaukee? Or you cheesehead or whatever?" You know,
Hey,
and
just
they don't know, and
Right.
they like, okay, they see stuff on CNN, and they say, "Oh man, Milwaukee's violent. There's always
Yeah.
stuff going on there," you know. And but I tell them to say, you know, you come here, you'll see a beautiful side.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to take
Yeah.
you in the hood. I'm going to take you to the nicer places, the newer things around here. And and it's sad that on the media, you know, outside of here is that's all they show.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, now they show a little bit more since the Bucks are doing good, but
Right.
but before
I hope with the spotlight coming with the Democratic National Convention
Yeah.
that they'll go broaden out and they will see some of the great things within the city.
Mhm.
Even in the poor areas of the city, we've got some
Absolutely.
great people.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, so
Yeah.
there are many positives in
It is.
Milwaukee.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
We're not our best advertisers, though.
No.
right.
You know,
You know,
Yeah.
wow.
That's true.
I'm sorry. I did a lot of community organizing and political work. I managed a campaign before and activism and all that, blah, 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 right? I've done that. But I actually wanted, you know, I'm going back to school to be a therapist, but I do poetry, as you know. might want to do some directing and some film to tell different stories and highlight different things in a real way, but also highlighting that other kind of beauty in the stories and stuff that we have. A documentary or just a feature, short film kind of thing.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. Cool. So I did some work with 411 Live. We got something that we're working on, but I'm excited.
Yeah. Keep us posted on that, on the progress, because
Yeah.
that is great. Well, you guys, we have gone through 30 minutes of talking, and you guys are great. But we still have a lot to talk about.
Okay.
We need to talk on the other side about, what do you do? Okay, you've been abused. Okay, you're an adult, and you're dealing with this stuff back here that you need to bring it up to the front, confront it, do what you need to do to move forward in a really positive, constructive way.
Right.
So we need to talk about that a little bit too. So we're going to come back for part 2 if you guys will stay.
Oh, I'll stay.
I'm here.
That's great. I just want to mention again our 3 guests. Look at my notes so I get the titles all right. Sean Muhammad, co-executive director of ASHA, and Al Afford, and he is the community organizer. He's the poet and the
Sam.
writer. Oh, I said
Sam.
Okay, Sam.
Sam Alford.
What did I call
I think
you?
you said Al, but
Okay, Sam.
I can be Al to you.
Oh, no. Leo Forum, and he is our licensed professional counselor here. So we're going to continue this conversation in part 2. As again, we have a lot to talk about, and I hope that you enjoyed this conversation and you will join us again. Remember, the 411 Live is a nonprofit organization. We depend on people like you to help us out. So if you are so inclined to donate, go to our website, the411live.org, and donate. And also, leave comments. Tell us how we're doing. Give us your suggestions for topics, future topics, because we are going to continue to do these. And we'd like to know what you would like us to talk about. You can look at the previous podcast. You can go to all the different platforms for podcasts, iHeartRadio podcasts, Apple, iTunes, all those places. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, but please look us up. We enjoy you. We enjoy what you say to us. We read it. So thank you, and keep that coming. Again, join us for our next time, our next podcast, part 2 of this. In the meantime, this is the 411 Live. Real people, real talk. I'm Beverly Taylor. If you would like to check out past episodes, there are many ways. Go to your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Like and watch us on Facebook. Watch and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have suggestions for future episodes, go to our website, the411live.org.